Elite Facts presents
18 incredible images that look photoshopped but aren't.
18.
The internet loves nothing more than it loves cats. Well, that and complaining about anything and everything, but don't worry, we do that too. So why not start with that, cats? Take a look at this little thing.
17.
If you've seen our optical illusion videos, you know that this is a common feature. At first, it does look like someone used Photoshop to put a checkerboard overlay over a fairly old-looking hallway. But no, someone actually went through the painstaking effort of painting the hallway in a specific pattern, so that when you're looking straight down it, you can see a checkerboard pattern. But the further you walk down, the less sense the pattern makes. Needless to say, it is rather amazing to look at. We can only imagine how awesome this looks in person.
16.
Next up, we have an image that looks like a screenshot right out of the Black Hole Sun music video by Soundgarden. This one is definitely hard to believe, as those ants look completely out of place. Well, this whole shoot was set up by photographer Andrew Pavlov, who's known for his surreal work where he builds tiny miniature scenes and then puts real ants in them and photographs them. It's a strange yet fascinating thing to look at.
15.
Okay, now this one has to be Photoshopped. Surely this isn't real, right? It looks exactly like a Salvador Dali painting. Well, it may come as a surprise when you find out that this is, in fact, real. Now, thankfully, this isn't how the building was intended to look during its development stages. I mean, could you imagine the headache that architects would have gone through if this was the intended design? No, the building isn't at all like this. It's actually just a tarp that covers the wall, creating the illusion that the building is melting. In a way, this was sort of done in Photoshop, but screw it, we're still counting it because the photo itself wasn't modified at all.
14.
Next up, we have what looks like a rather odd but fascinating painting of a group of trees lying in the snow. Or is it? Do us a favor and look at the image more closely. Do you see it? This is actually an aerial photograph of a dried up riverbed in Mexico. How awesome does that look?
13.
Now, at first glance, this looks like someone took a transparent PNG image of 3 soldiers walking in a line and turning it into a brush in Photoshop, thus creating that very strange effect. But this is not edited at all. This is just a very well-organized platoon of Navy soldiers. Still a rather satisfying effect despite how common and simple these photos are.
12.
Don't worry, you're not seeing things, but be warned. Looking at this might give some of you a case of vertigo. So, for those of you who haven't seen this, it's actually a real-life tennis court that's located at the top of the Burj Al Arab in Dubai. The tennis court has no railings and is elevated 650 feet off the ground. It's so high up that it also doubles as a helipad when needed. We doubt any tennis tournaments take place up there, for obvious reasons. I mean, you definitely need balls to play on that, literally.
11.
How satisfying does this look? Surely it can't be real, right? Why is the ice under the snow pitch black? Why is the snow specky? What we're getting at is that this picture of a snowy mountain region looks very unnatural. The mountains look fine, but everything else looks photoshopped. But as you can probably gather because of the title of this video, this is actually legit. But what you may not realize is that this photo wasn't taken in a snowy region of the world, and those things in the background aren't mountains. Nope, everything in this image was made using salt. How awesome is that?
10.
If this was done in Photoshop, they probably would have corrected their mathematical error, right? So yes, the numbers and symbols in this image look way too perfect to be done in real life. Besides, how could they get something like this to work in real life? Well, the answer to that is simple. Use the perspective to your advantage. Take a look at the behind-the-scenes image, and you'll see that they positioned items in rows in order to create the desired effect. Still though, 1 + 1 isn't 3, but you get an A+ for effort and creativity.
9.
Don't worry, you're not tripping out, but this is as real as it gets. It looks like something out of a museum, but this is actually a place you can visit in real life. It's the Paria Canyon Vermillion Cliffs, a wilderness area in Utah, USA. Needless to say, as amazing as this image is, it simply doesn't do the location justice. If you live in the region or are simply passing through, we highly recommend checking this place out. It's truly a sight that needs to be seen with your own eyes.
8,
You thought that image of the 600-foot-high tennis court in Dubai was crazy? Check these crazy people out. We seriously doubt Photoshop was an option in this era. As amazing and weird as this image is, it does beg the question, what was going through everyone's minds while this was happening? Was the pilot worrying about those two up on the wing? Was the photographer worrying that the picture wouldn't be as good as he hoped? Are the two fellas on the wings hoping that the other falls off so they can win the game by forfeit? So many questions, and we'll never know.
7,
So, okay, this one is definitely something you could believe was done without the use of Photoshop, but that doesn't change the fact that it looks absolutely stunning. With something like this, we'd imagine that using Photoshop would probably have been a whole lot easier than actually painting exactly half the room to look like that. But someone actually put in the effort to paint everything on one side, and it has a very vibrant urban aesthetic.
6,
So apparently there's a sequel to Universal's The Invisible Man, only in this film, The Invisible Man takes up hockey. And you thought that Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein was a weird horror sequel. In all seriousness though, this was simply a lucky photo that was taken at the right time. The player in the red uniform is ducking his head, which makes it look as though it doesn't even exist. As for his helmet, we have no idea how that flew off his head, but it still makes for an incredibly amusing photo.
5,
Pink Floyd fans, eat your hearts out. This stunning image isn't Photoshopped. As crazy as it is to believe, this is the real deal. This was intended as a college art project and was created using similar lasers to those used in strobe light shows. Needless to say, it's something quite simple that looks incredibly stunning.
4,
Yes, you're not seeing that wrong. That is, in fact, a bear sitting down with a family at a dinner table for Thanksgiving dinner. So if it wants the cranberry sauce, you'd better pass it down quick. This image is 100% real. The man to the bear's right raised it from a cub, and the bear is now essentially a part of his family. Hell, the bear was even his best, man at his wedding.
3,
Kids, this is what happens when you flush your goldfish down the toilet. Just don't do it.
2,
Now this one is hard to explain, but it's really creative. So just how is that faucet floating? Well, the answer is simple. The reason it's floating is because there's a pipe that's coming up out of the pool and up through the faucet pipe. That way, when the water is being pumped up through the pipe, it falls back down into the pool, thus covering the pipe itself. Really cool.
1,
Looks like a very strange album cover, doesn't it? Well, whether it was or wasn't intended as an album cover, it's still something that could have been done with Photoshop, but it probably wouldn't have looked nearly as impressive. So as you can see, a photographer carefully planned out a series of photos where he would have people and various things put underwater, both stationary and floating around. He put half of the camera lens underwater so that he could take a photo of what's happening underwater at the same time as he got a photo of what's happening above the water. Needless to say, it's a rather cool effect, but certainly a tricky one to pull off.
Don't forget to like us and subscribe for more Elite Facts.